everybody doing? So this was unexpected, but time and circumstances allowed it to be, so I took advantage of it. This is my first time ever involving myself with Riverside, and the background that I'm using, I regret it. I don't like it, but I'm gonna go with it anyway. So anyway, my Blake Mead, that's who I am, independent journalism. For those who don't know me, I'm gonna get right to how I started this. Basically, I traveled to several cities in the country, and a lot of those cities, some I've been to a few times, and it was to take a look, observe the triple threat, which I call drugs, mental health, and homelessness. And as a result, I uncovered a lot. I was overwhelmed by some things I saw, and but it kept me attracted to the why. Looking at a person's physical condition, I want to see that person's mental conditions, that person's spiritual conditions. I want to see what was underneath all of the other. And the mental health aspect, I embrace more in regards to understanding more of it as time had, as I matured, or matured, depending on your level of education, as time went on with just traveling, talking with people, engaging, networking, a little this, a little that. Of all of the places I've been, I would have to say North Philadelphia would have to be the one with the strongest content of abuse. Yeah, it would have to be. And yeah, it would have to be, that would have to be the strongest. The Tenderloin was pretty funky too. The Tenderloin. Now, Tenderloin is in the San Francisco section of West Coast. So, aside from that, I haven't. Last place I was at was in Seattle, which was in July or August. I forget which one of those two. So, why this stuff? Why did I start doing this in the first place? I want to know. I am from Boston, and so I saw a lot of stuff that was going on in the Boston area. And a lot of the stuff that I saw that was going on in the Boston area made me curious. And so I went to Methadone Mile, better known to be politically correct as Mass and Cass. And but I'm gonna tell you, that was like just after COVID. So it wasn't, something to just, just go start talking to people with needles in their hand. Nah. Even though I knew the area because I'm from Boston, I just said, no, I'm going to sit in the car and watch people do their thing. And people are doing their thing. And I would watch people going to McDonald's, snatch food, and not run. What are you going to do about it? Literally. And as a result of that, that made me more curious about how the people that work there felt about it. Did they feel uncomfortable about this stuff? And so I talked to the manager, and he says, what did he say? They have crazy cards. I said, okay. Says they have mental health issues, but they're allowed to do what they want to do because they're not going to get arrested. And no, he said crazy cards. That's what he said, crazy cards. And so I took that for what I saw with my own eyes, that these people would come in there, tell them I ordered something, and they had ordered nothing, and then would argue, plead, or outright demand that you give me something, or I come back there and do some damage. And I've witnessed all of the above. I've witnessed it. And I said to myself, okay, Blake, what would you do if that was you? It takes on a whole different meaning when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. What would you do? And so I said to myself, wow, if someone came to me like that, I would hurt them with no hesitation. And so when I looked at it like that, I better understood why this manager, he was from the island, somewhere in the Caribbean islands, and he was very staunch about people that were on drugs down here, harassing them and all of this other stuff. And so he showed me this big can of mace, nice, strong. It was strong, and it did its job. And it said, I've used this many times in the past. I will continue to use it. It says, I will too. Anything to defend yourself, you must do. To defend your family, to defend your business, to defend your position, you must do. So anyway, it got to the point where I needed to talk to people. I needed to see what this was like. I really did. So I took my drone, I put it up in the air. So I did a little visual from an aerial from on high to see what everything looked like. And I would go around and I would watch people. Yes, I would watch people, get used to familiar faces. And oftentimes, people that are in that lifestyle, they're not really paying attention to what's going on around them. They're just doing their thing. And so I found myself in the midst of it. I also I volunteered for, I think the name of the program was AHOPE. I volunteered there, and I would go into the fence and watch how things were done there. It's bad. You got people that have low self worth, full of anger, oftentimes more than enough, and you had to really pay attention to who was having a bad day or just wasn't having their way. And I watched people throw food, chairs, and a lot of these people were people that were active users. So, for me, it was like, yeah, there's no way I can volunteer for something like this. It would be, no, it just wouldn't happen. That's not something I'd be willing to accept, that type of abuse. So anyway, I saw some familiar faces, some people that I grew up with, or some people I just known for a long time. And I said, listen, how does this work? And they said, this is all we do. We get a little stuff to clean up, some food in our stomach, we go on and we get high. And I said, just like that. He's like, yeah, just like that. And so yeah, I went about my business, but eventually I started talking to people. And I told them that I wanted to know what this was all about, why you did this. And they would let me record them, and I would sit and we would talk about stuff, and they could identify. If you listen to them, their forms are different, but the pain was similar. So I heard a lot of similarity in a lot of the conversations I was having with people. Some were in recovery, some had homes, vehicles, relationships. I mean, when you're that far gone, you lose all that stuff anyway. And but I also found out that a lot of them were very smart. They were just having a lot of negative experiences in their life at the time. So anyway, to speed it up, I put all of my videos together, interviews and stuff like that, and put it into a short. Well, it's about 40-minute documentary. I want to say that was in 22, 21, 22 or 21, and just then I said I want to travel. I want to travel to see what it was like in other cities. And yeah, and the rest is just what it became for me. Because once I got on that plane, once I made my mind up to where I was going next, I had the area that I was going in surveyed, so I knew exactly where I was going, what I was going to say. I'm sorry, what I was looking for. I'm always looking for the same thing. Resource centers, drop-in centers, or drop-in centers, any kind of places where they have some type of recovery yet, so I could see with my own eyes, see with my third eye, hear with my earlobes as to what was versus what wasn't, and draw my own conclusion. And I like it. I still like it. There's still some other places that I want to go that I haven't been, that I'm eventually going to go, God willing. And yeah, but I find this stuff very interesting to go and travel to these places and look at all of this stuff that's going on in America, and a lot of people like ignore it. Yeah. Now I just found out that in New York they have a injection site. I think they have one in Rhode Island, but I know they got one in New York. So that's going to be interesting as to how I can put myself in a position to go interview the people that work there, and add that to the rest of the stuff that I do. I have a lot of videos and interviews in my travels. Skid Row, Seattle, the Tenderloin, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, Atlanta, and a lot of these places that I've been to, as I said, some I've been to before, some I've only been to one time. The most profound thing I ever saw in all my travels, I was in Seattle. Seattle was the Starbucks capital. I was walking across the street with a coffee in my hand, and there was a woman flanking me. And we were walking across the street, and there was a woman with a little girl, about 6, and they were both looking at this man as they were approaching this man, almost like directly in front of him. He was shooting into his vein. I'm assuming it was a vein, not just a muscle. I know the government, everybody's changed language, but it still means the same thing to me. So I'm not getting lost in that stuff. So it shot up, as he was shooting up, I looked at his face, but I also looked at the faces of the woman and the little girl. And the woman standing next to me, she said, "Look at that. Look at how disgusting that is. That's tearing this country apart," or something to that effect, something strong emotionalism she got into. So I looked at her and I says, "Who are you referring to? The woman and the little girl, or him, or them?" She said, "Well, obviously, look at that. Look at that." And so the woman heard us, and as we were getting close to one another, the woman that heard us says to this woman, "The reason why I'm looking at it, oh, no little girl should have to see that." That was the other thing that the woman said. So the woman who had the little girl, as it turns out, that was her niece. And the guy that they were looking at, that was he reminded them of her brother, the little girl's father. So the little girl's father had OD. That's overdose for those who don't know. And so she basically let her have it, because she got in her emotions too, because that man reminded her of her brother. And so she got in her emotions and went after her verbally, basically put her in a place. I kept my mouth shut because that wasn't my fight. However, the woman that was crossing the street with the little girl, her and I had a 2-hour conversation as a result of that scene. And so I told her, "You just gave me an idea, a total stranger. It's about art. Art is an interpretation anyway. And sometimes, or should I say not sometimes, but the most extreme piece of art, agreeable or disagreeable, is up for interpretation. Hate it or love it, it's up for interpretation." So when I saw that guy feeling was in all of his comfort, and all of that poison was going into his body, the look on that woman's face and that little girl were one, like they were channeling energy from him because of the resemblance. And I felt that energy, like there was something going on there. And I'm like, wow, this is deep. And the woman immediately says to me after that, with the other woman, I could hear you, but I was in a trance, her words, with this total stranger that reminded me of my brother. And once I mentioned the interpretation, she fell in love with it. That's an interpretation. And all that woman did was gave her interpretation. That's what she did. So we were all connected to something. Him, them, me, and that woman were all connected for a few minutes about the same thing. What we saw, how it made us feel. That's deep. That's deep. This is why I said to that woman, what I witnessed, what I was able to experience was art imitating life. And it was profound for me. So that was the most profound thing that I can say that I saw that whole cycle there. Of course, Vancouver is right up the street from where we were, and so you could, it was easy access. Now, I met a few people. I did interview some people there. They didn't do anything. But one thing I noticed is on Third Ave, Third and Pike, I think. There, Pike, I think, is like our Faneuil Hall in Boston. But there, Third Ave is where everybody get down. Yeah. I did take some still shots of it. People get off the bus, open the bus, first thing they see is that there. Imagine that. Imagine getting off the bus with your 2-year-old or your 6-year-old or your grandmother or whatever, and that's the first thing you see. Again, more culture shock, more art, imitating life or whatever. So anyway, I compiled a lot of stuff, and I'm continuously thinking of ways to or new ways to invent or reinvent what I have. So my next project is to do like a 15-minute film on Blake Media. Yeah, I'm working on that right now. Is to do a 15-minute film on Blake Media and what Blake Media entails and what he's going to continue to do. Speaking of that, this is my business plan. It's a 35-page business plan, and I want to share with you one page. Okay, here's one. Business strategy. Focusing on social impact, providing accessible media solutions, innovative, immersive storytelling techniques, attracting talent through strategic partnerships. But I want to go up to focusing on social impact. Unlike traditional media companies, Blake Media, independent journalists, I tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I'm not going to distort it or whatever. I'm not going to take your side. I want to hear and I'm going to report what I hear, whether I agree with it or not. That's what you do. You give the people, this is what you want, here it is. Here's what you don't want, well, don't. Move out the way. Let the next person have it. Focusing on social impact. Unlike traditional media companies, Blake Media prioritizes projects that align with 3 things: advocacy, awareness, and social justice. Social justice and political justice, really. But I'm just going to leave it at that. But yeah, so this is my business plan right here. I'm gonna put it to work. I look at it every other day. Sometimes I take it with me, you know, and I don't have my camera with me, but I take that wherever I go to. You know, I'm always recording, taking pictures and stuff like that because it's what I love to do. Everything I know about it, I learned by hitting the wrong button until I began to hit the right button. You know, and so anyway, yeah, my Blake Media, it's going to continue to grow. You know, it takes time and be patient with this. And I've gained a lot since I first started. I look at the corners that I've been able to turn, and I'm going to continue to involve others as much as I can. I'm gonna do a lot of interviewing too, street interviews. I am. I'm gonna start doing a lot of street interviews, get people involved in something that they're attracted to. Sports and music are the two things that can bind people together. Sports and music. Everywhere, every country you can't think of, there's one, or there's the other, or there's both. That's what we love. Entertainment. This which is what that is, and I do, you know. But yeah, Blake Media, and I'm gonna start doing more like salutes to people that I admired for a long time, stuff like that, because it's something I've been wanting to do, you know. And when I get to it, my mother's gonna be the first one because that's where it all started, 5865, because she worked in drop-in centers. And I'll go more into that on my next go around of Blake Media. But for now, I'm out. This is your boy Blake Media. Thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you. And there will be more. There'll be a lot more coming. I stay busy. I'm in that mindset. I'm out. Word.